I'm innocent. They locked me up, medicated me, outcasted me. People took everything from me.
In most video games, the protagonist is depicted as a sort of hero, someone you root for during the course of the story. But sometimes it's a hell of a lot cooler to play as the bad guy. Case in point, Entropy 02. This was a game developed by a team known as Breadman, a group of loyal Half-Life fans who devoted so much time and effort into something that I'd gladly consider to be the unofficial sequel to the Half-Life universe. Sure, it's not technically canon since this is a fan-made project, but I'd like to think it's one of the greatest action shooters I've ever played. The only thing I regret is I obviously can't talk about every little detail in the game. I could, but that would probably take me a month. It's so much fun that I just get sucked into playing it all the time. It stays true to the HL2 style gameplay and combat while introducing brand new mechanics. For example, you can kick in this game, whether it be doors or enemies, and if you kick the enemies, it'll disarm them. You start with a very cool integral night vision device rather than Gordon Freeman's flashlight, and you get a plethora of familiar favorites within your arsenal alongside more new ones. Not only am I superbly impressed by Entropy 02, but I'm also heavily intrigued. This is a game I had never heard of until earlier this year, and I regret saying that. The graphics are somehow better than Half-Life 2 while being very reminiscent of the game at the same time. I can't describe it well, but the source engine just looks fucking phenomenal here. You can easily differentiate this game from Half-Life 2. As per request of the developers themselves, join me as I take you on one of the greatest journeys led by a badass with nothing to lose. This is Entropy 02. The story is set in the eyes of 3650, a Metro cop amongst the Combine who seems to hold on to a confident reputation despite the fact that his fellow Combine brethren insult him countless times. It's interesting that you can interact with any of the Combine officers. They all have something different to say. It's obvious that our main character must have some history with the group he's surrounded by. They never shut the fuck up about us.
3650. You know, breaking code 46-12 doesn't make you smart. It makes you reckless. It gets results. Better keep your voice down. I think that's 3650. Still haven't got memory replacement, huh? What, feeling guilty? Guilty? There's a 36. Has a good taste. You'll be tasting my blood if you don't shut up.
36 is tasked with clearing out the ventilation shafts using a stun stick. You'll have to crawl through whacking the fucking things until you eventually start to listen in on a group of officers snooping around in the Combine database. They access 3650's file and begin making wild accusations and claims against him. Turns out 3650 is a man named Aiden Walker who once sought the mystery behind his wife and daughter's disappearance. The soldiers, rather than pity him, decide to dock his points. This idea is pretty cool alone, and it's neat to explore how the Combine might not have worked so well together all the time. It leaves open a window into the original game's universe and adds a strange sense of humanity to it all. 36 gets angry after hearing what his fellow soldiers said about him, rightfully so, but this next part made my jaw drop.
I'm innocent.
Holy hell, that's an introduction. Immediately swinging out of the gates, our main character just went on a maniacal rampage over being bullied for a few minutes. I love him already. Apparently 3650 just gets a slap on the wrist for murdering all of his soldier buddies. Hey, I'm not complaining, you are the bad guy after all. He's ordered to endure outland duty when suddenly the introduction begins, fast-forwarding us in time. 36 wakes up inside what used to be the Nova Prospect abandoned prison, but now it's infested with antlions. This beginning segment is a wonderful introduction to the action. You'll be fighting alongside your Combine friends as you use grenades to blow up the mounds dug up by the fucking bugs. One thing I have to point out is how awesome it is that 36 talks during the gameplay. He'll shout insults as he kicks and crushes everything in his path. I feel like I'm playing robotic John Wick, except better.
Not really before it got dead. Now I'm bringing her into the firefight. Feel. Restore. A new profound sense of murder's intent fills me.
Eventually, he meets up with the advisor who updates him on his newest assignment, finding Judith Mossman and figuring out what she's up to. Wow, so Judith makes an appearance in this? That'll be interesting to see. Once you hold off a few waves and destroy the antlion holes, 36 gets picked up in a dropship in time. The dropship crashes, and he's ambushed by rebels. Interestingly enough, the rebels in Entropy 02 have different voice lines sometimes, and offer new combat techniques that you'll have to get used to. For example, these rebels are capable of jumping long distances thanks to their special suits, and most of them carry heavy armor now as compared to when they fought alongside Gordon Freeman. You're put up against an onslaught of attackers here, but so long as you play it safe and steady your shots, you'll finish them off in no time. Not long after that, we keep getting these odd glimpses of a Combine soldier watching us on the monitor. It turns out to be none other than the original 3650, who vaguely warns you to keep away from Judith Mossman. I mean, I'm still in disbelief that she's even in this game at some point. The clone cop, as he's called, is constantly proving to be a problem for your main character, messing with electronics and forcing you to solve puzzles in order to get by. Suddenly, he causes 36 to fall directly through the floor to some unknown underground facility. Not long into the beginning, you'll stumble across one of the greatest side characters I've ever met in my life, Wilson. He's an abandoned, robot? Drone? I don't know, he's fucking Wilson. He was left here by Clone Cop and can be used to access certain doors or provide comic relief when the situation calls for it. Wilson is wildly hilarious to me, and while that's kind of what I was expecting for my first impression of the lovable droid, him and 36 share great exchanges of dialogue with each other, 36 being a very nose-to-the-grindstone harsh soldier, and Wilson having the personality of a curious 10-year-old with Stephen Hawking's intelligence.
What is this place?
That is classified. That was a joke. Yeah. They build test chambers here and test the, testability.
For what?
For, testing.
Testing what?
Now, for that, I really can't tell you. It's hard-coded. I literally cannot tell you. This is making me really uncomfortable. Hey, I can see you in there.
With Wilson by his side, 36 ventures deeper into the underground complex. This is when Wilson suddenly feels the urge to update us about a huge monster here in the basement, left behind by your clone. This giant freaky pile of shit is called a gonome, I think, and they're not to be approached with arms wide open. You can't kill it at this segment by any means, which is why Wilson warns you to hide in the ventilations. This part is just a glorified puzzle, but I'll admit, it's a great one. Might seem like I'm flying right past it all, but truthfully, the first experience I had with Entropy 02's puzzles had me stumped for quite a while. That's not to say they're poorly designed, they feel very in tune with what you'd expect to see in a Half-Life game. Soon enough, Bad Cop finds Clone Cop's hideout and begins to investigate. There's a nice Eric Andre reference here when 36 goes to open the door to his armory. Wasn't expecting to see these two properties cross paths someday. There's another funny scene right before this where Wilson tries to, size himself up to a female turret or something. I don't know, it's just so funny.
Hey. Just me and the boss. Back after a big raid. Yep. A dangerous raid. They didn't stand a chance. Did they, boss?
No, I killed them all.
Your business is appreciated.
Could you let us through?
Part of why I like 36's character so much is because it feels like we're playing as him. When he first obtains the revolver, it doesn't have any ammunition, but he still twirls it in his fingers and misfires just to show it off. It's like the game takes control sometimes, but I like it this way. It adds for some decent storytelling in my opinion. I forgot to mention that everywhere you go, if you want Wilson to come with, you'll have to carry him manually. This might make you shake your head, but honestly it's not as bad as what I was expecting. Think of Left 4 Dead 2. Remember the Noam Chomsky achievement? In case you don't know, in order to get that achievement, you'll have to beat the arcade game during the Dark Carnival campaign, then carry the fucking thing the entire rest of the way, all the way up until you board the helicopter and escape. That's definitely not this. Wilson feels like so much fun to be around, and I kind of feel bad that Bad Cop treats him like garbage in the first half. But hey, we are the bad guy after all, so it makes sense. Supposedly, your choices can change the overall outcome of the game. I'm not too sure where or what or when, but at some points your decisions matter. I won't be covering the multiple endings as I didn't have enough time or space to film them, but hopefully I can discuss the ending I got in decent detail. Anyway, where was I? Wilson is great. If you disagree, fuck you. Just when you think you've gotten away from the beast, Wilson asks you to check out the other rooms he unlocked in the area.
Don't worry about it. Just leave me here a minute. I'll try and figure it out. You remember those doors we passed? Yeah, I think I can unlock them from here.
Wow, the main character of this story is so cool. Fuck attacking it head on, he straight up slammed the door and said nope. Can't say I wouldn't do the same. This segment is an intense chase with you having to sprint and carry Wilson at the same time. The two manage to get outside where reinforcements have arrived to pursue the Arbite 2 facility where Judith Mossman is presumed to be hiding. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the facility and what the rebels are planning to do. Even the advisors of the Combine seem all too interested in what it could be. Oh my god, is that an APC? Well, that's cool. It'd be nice to have some heavy weapon backup in case What a dick! Why did he drop it on me? I'm sitting here minding my own business. I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm about to get the APC, and then he fucking drops it on my head. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm driving it. Fuck. Wow, this is actually really cool. They even have a mount on the top of the vehicle for Wilson to be mounted. You'll have to be careful though, otherwise he could fall off and you'll lose your polycarbonate partner for good. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. If Wilson dies at all or gets left behind, he's gone for good. There's no bringing him back unless you restart the entire game or at least reload a checkpoint. Onward, 36 and Wilson lead a massive push against the last of the retaliating rebels in this area. There's lots of gung-ho violence here, so I jumped a bit ahead for your sake. Killing rebels is fun and all, but there's only so much I can film. Continuing forward, 36 finds out that Judith is in fact here at Arbite 2. What's crazy is the fact that this scene is ripped directly from Half-Life 2. Remember when Judith's transmission is interrupted? Seeing this part of the original come to light was epic and felt like the conclusion I've been dying to see was finally here. My heart was racing, my blood was pumping, and I started to grind my way past everyone and everything. Judith can't escape. We need answers. And with the threat from the advisors on our back, we don't have a choice. She must be stopped. Maybe then, 36 can finally get some closure behind what happened to his family long ago. They mention 36's family briefly throughout the game, and keep in mind, I haven't played the first Entropy game, so I don't know the full story. However, I can safely say they incorporate his past very well, keeping it vague and making sure that he doesn't talk about it very openly or often. There's a segment when Wilson speaks to Bad Cop in a brutally honest way, and it's almost touching. Someone kidnapped his child and he never found out who or why. Instead, he grew a lust for vengeance and joined the Combine in hopes they'd help him find the truth. Right after speaking to Clone Cop again, you have to fight your way inside of Arbite 2. There's a massive rebellion defense here, so you should take cover often and carefully place your shots. The Combine regroup, and Bad Cop realizes Judith is gone. There's one last excavation site left beneath the surface of Arbite 2, the only place she could have gone. You'll have to keep an eye out for these turrets, otherwise they'll turn you into fucking Parmesan cheese. Jesus Christ. In fact, this entire chapter is just stock full of fighting. I'm definitely not complaining, considering Bad Cop's character and voice lines are always enough to settle my appetite for destruction. I just love the quips he shouts to different enemies, depending on their species. Finally, we capture Judith Mossman. This was a really intense moment for me, as I was expecting some crazy dialogue between her and Bad Cop. However, unfortunately, Judith doesn't say much. Most of her lines used here are recycled from the original Half-Life 2. Listen, this isn't a complaint. I'm just happy to see her again. I understand the voice actress probably isn't available, or maybe they couldn't find a replacement, so I'll make do. I don't mind it. Clone Cop suddenly arrives to stop us once and for all. Another really great moment between the two characters, staring at each other through a window almost as if it were a mirror. He begins cutting the door down when Mossman finds an exit. You have to run back to the Combine group and avoid being killed by your double. However, things change once Mossman is in the Combine's custody. 36 falsely assumes he will be able to get the information he wanted, but the advisor directs him to a new objective. killing Clone Cop. Looks like he may have been onto something when warning BC earlier in the game to not trust the Combine. Heading even deeper into the excavation site, the two of them prepare for an intense fight with Clone Cop sabotaging the facility. This is it. The final showdown. You have to fight a teleporting Clone Cop as he hunts you down, mimicking your moves and even using the same guns as you. It's a fight for our fucking lives, and oh my god, it is so good. Once he's defeated, the facility seems to be in a dire state, on the verge of collapse. Running to the console, BC stabilizes the core and returns all functions back to normal.
Core entropy 0.
I'm not doing so good.
What the fuck? What happened to Wilson? He's all broken. The upload station isn't far. BC takes his friend on the platform to the final excavation site and hopes to get him there and keep him alive. The two of them share a really provoking moment together, and I'm not even kidding you when I say this. I bawled my eyes out like a baby when 36 says goodbye to Wilson once and for all. He was such an iconic side character who contributed lots of laughs to the story and gave innocence to the plot when most of it is filled with pure hatred. There was a light inside of Wilson, but it's gone now.
Boss, I'm not gonna make it.
You're gonna be fine.
No, I don't think I am.
No, you're fine.
You're yelling at me.
I'm not mad. I'm gonna get you uploaded, remember?
I don't blame you for being angry at the world.
Don't do this.
Don't blame yourself. There are some things in life you don't get over.
Wilson. He's gone. Maybe I should leave him at the upload station. We made it, buddy. You're gonna have to leave here now. So long. And... thanks.
You guys can't do that to me, man. You can't take Wilson away. What the fuck? He was like the first guy I actually cared about in the game. Holy fuck. I didn't think I would get emotional over Entropy 02, but holy shit. This is where we find the Borealis, the famous ship from Half-Life 2's ending. According to the lore, the Borealis isn't even a ship, but a device that can travel through different dimensions. This is what Judith was hoping to take control of. Suddenly, the advisor appears, crushing Clone Cop where he sits. This is where Bad Cop is given a choice. Either he becomes the new overlord for the Combine race, or he faces punishment. I decided against becoming the new overlord for the Combine, as my new friend Wilson taught me that maybe power isn't the solution I was looking for. This causes the advisor to become the final boss. You'll have to avoid his thrown objects and dump all the ammunition you can into him. I'll be honest, this boss fight was pretty rough for me. It took me about 4 attempts to figure out what I'm supposed to do. When he lifts up a huge container, you're supposed to duck into these circular holes in the floor in between his attacks. Once the advisor is defeated, Bad Cop knows the Combine will come after him next. He runs to the Borealis, only to be transported somewhere else. He then comes face to face with G-Man, who shares some interesting dialogue with Bad Cop about his family. He tells 36 that he's owed a great debt thanks to securing the ship and everything else we've done throughout the course of the game. Either we can figure out what happened to our daughter, or stop the Combine from cloning 36's memories and imprinting them into elite units. In a matter of selflessness, 36 decides not to ask what happened to his family, but instead insists that G-Man stops the Combine from creating any copies of him, engaging in a never-ending hunt with himself in this endless loop that he's doomed to repeat. But ultimately, 36's fate is left uncertain as he's placed back into the cell he remembered from years ago, and the G-Man disappears without a trace. That, my lovely audience, was Entropy 02. Crazy that playing as the bad guy has taught me many things on this action journey, but also humbled me when I realized that looking at the world with so much misanthropy, So much hatred for what happened to you. You can't change the things that happened, but you can grow from them. Without Wilson, I feel like the game would just have a generic story about following orders, but no, it's so much more thanks to the room they had to expand within the cinematic universe of Half-Life 2. Entropy was an all-around great time, even though I do have some minor complaints. I'm just kidding, I only have one major complaint. The random stutter lags that happen. And it happens a lot. Almost every time you access a new area, the game will turn into Gary's mod for half a second and start skipping. I didn't have this issue back when I played the game in May, so I'm not too sure what's causing it. Bugs aside, I can't say I didn't enjoy my time in Entropy's story. It's a massive adventure full of new and reprising characters, new enemies and types of hazards, new puzzles, and best of all, it offers a much better conclusion for the main character. I know this game has multiple endings and maybe someday I'll get around to them, but for now, I think you should play Entropy Zero 2. Both of the games are free to play at any time on Steam, so you don't have to worry about losing money. Let me give a special shout out to every single one of the developers for this game. The voice acting, the design, you guys nailed it with a ball-peen fucking hammer. Well, let me just say, I don't know if I got the right ending, but holy shit, this was one of the greatest games I've ever played. Johnny Richardson, holy shit. Dude, great fucking work. It's amazing. This game's perfect. Sam Pearson, Derek Dick, I think that says. You guys did great. Holy shit. Voice acting was pretty good too. The guy who did the voice of G-Man wasn't bad. I actually liked that. I can't wait to play through it again and try all sorts of different runs. And thank you guys for 1,050 subs. I can't believe we actually made it here, and it's thanks to each and every one of you. It only goes up from here, guys. Let's hope that we can produce some really great content together. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Hey, you guys aren't gonna tell anybody that I cried, right? When Wilson died? You're not gonna say anything, right? You're not gonna pick on me, right?